Greetings. This is Mary Pauline, Polly Lanoy, presenting memories to celebrate the life of Leon Lanoy. Leon's parents were Charlie and Blanche Lanoy. His brothers were Albert, 7 years older than Leon, Ernest, 5 years older, and his sister Margaret Ann Sandman is 7 years younger. They grew up as a sharecrop farming family in the Round Hill community east of Colgate. During the years of 1913 to 1918 were booming times for the coal mining industry in and around Colgate and Cole County, Oklahoma. Charlie Lanoy was a coal miner. The big strike came about in 1921 and the coal mines closed. At that time, the family moved to become farmers. Leon was born November the 9th, 1921. When Leon was 5 years old, he could handle a turning plow. Although he could barely reach the handles, he managed a team of horses and joined the working crew of the family with his brothers, Albert and Ernest. Round Hill School was in a rural area and had a small enrollment. In the Round Hill School group, Dale Brown was the teacher for the upper grades 5 through 8. Leon Lanoy is at the right end of the front row, a 5th grader. His brother Ernest is at the right end of the back row, an 8th grader. In the fall of 1933, Charlie Lanoy had managed to save and borrow money for a down payment on some land to own. The family moved to the Phillips community January the 1st, 1934, where Leon transferred from the small enrollment of Round Hill School to the greater attendance of the small-town school of Phillips. The next year, Leon's sister, Margaret Ann, was a 1st grader. Leon, an 8th grader, is second from the left end of the back row. Margaret Ann, a 1st grader, is seated 5th from left end. Summer came following the close of the school year, and Leon bargained with his papa prior to the time of entering high school to be allowed to start at the beginning of the term. Leon was 13 years old, small for his age, but told his papa he would get up early enough to milk all the cows and do all the chores around the house and barn, including feeding the hogs, chickens, dogs, bringing in wood for the cook stove and heater each morning and evening, which allowed Albert and Ernest to do the field work. This bargain, agreed upon with his papa, was carried on throughout Leon's 4 years of high school. Sometimes during high school lunch period, Leon and the fellows had items of interest back then, such as marbles and shinny. Shinny was an exciting game to them. The guys had so much fun and would not report skins or bruises as a result of the shinny games for fear the games would be abolished. Keith McMillan remembers the game and those fun times to this day in 2015. Leon's graduating high school class consisted of 46 members. Leon Lanoy was probably the smallest boy. His close friend, Charles Carson Jr., standing next to him in mid-back row, has his right hand grasping Leon's right shoulder. Still in the clutches of the Great Depression, jobs were hard to come by in the fall of 1939 after Leon graduated from high school. Therefore, entering the CCCs seemed a good choice at that time. Leon signed up for 2 hitches in the CCCs at Castle Rock, Colorado, 1939 to 1941. It was here that Leon Lanoy became acquainted with Leon Beckwart. Both Leons were 18 years old in the fall of 1939 and remained lifelong friends. World War II started when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor December the 7th, 1941. During this time, Leon chose to return to Oklahoma to be enlisted from Cole County in the Army. His patriotism was high. He was drafted and sent to Camp Walters, Texas for basic training. He was in Company C, 56th Infantry Training Battalion in the 3rd Platoon. While in the 3rd Platoon, Leon took tests for entry into the Air Force and was granted a move to the Air Force into cadet training. Leon Lanoy was 22 years old when sent to Biloxi, Mississippi Air Force Base. The training was fast, and he even learned to do the Queen Anne's salute in readiness to being sent to England. Leon was in the United States 8th Army Air Force, 389th Bomb Group in B-17 planes, stationed at Kimbolton Airfield located at Kimbolton Castle in England. The airmen lived in Quonset-type huts made out of corrugated metal. The heat in the huts was a stovepipe unit with a lid and fueled by small brick-type coke. It was very cold, and they could not take showers because the pipes were all frozen. So the fellows would put some water in their helmets, remove the cap from the stove unit, and put the helmet of water on the hole to heat for a sponge bath. The guys stayed cold most of the time. The only place they could get warm was at the mess hall. These airmen were flying missions over Germany, the Ardennes, Rhineland, and Central Europe. Leon had the same responsibilities of the commissioned bombardier in the lead plane. At 3 o'clock in the morning, they were awakened to go to briefing before flying a mission. They would pick up their parachutes after briefing and board the B-17 bombers. Leon Lanoy took his place to drop the bombs and man the nose gun in the front ball of the plane. When flying over the target, many guns would be shooting at them. The B-17 planes would be in jeopardy and in most cases hit. Leon carried the scars from these missions physically and mentally for the rest of his life. In many cases, the pilot brought the damaged plane with the crew back to the base. Missions were frightening, but not any airmen were lessened of the job they were to accomplish. Patriotism continued to be high, and that feeling never left Leon's heart. Leon and his crew had to bail out twice when flying over France. American base patrols picked them up, and the downed airmen were flown out in C-47 cargo planes back to Kimbolton Field in England. It has been said that during World War II, on an average, 1 out of every 4 planes was lost. Nonetheless, Leon and his crew were anxious to stay on the job to help accomplish victory for the Allies. In numerous circumstances, each airman had his life on the line, but glad to be a part of the defense for his country, the dear old USA. He had been inducted into the service June the 22nd, 1943, and was discharged October 31st, 1945. The separation from the service came earlier than expected, as Leon was back in Colgate, Oklahoma on a 30-day convalescence furlough when VJ Day occurred, and his orders were changed. Instead of Okinawa, he was sent to Lincoln Field, Nebraska, where he ended his career in the military soon after. Leon Lanoy was always glad to quote songwriter and patriot Lee Greenwood, "I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me." Prior to heading to Lincoln, and during the early part of his 30-day leave while in Colgate, sitting on the front fender of his 1935 Ford sedan he called his Brown Daisy, parked at the curb in front of the Palace Drug Store, as he said, "Minding my own business." Mary Pauline Long happened to come by and thought she recognized that soldier from the pictures her friend Florence Gruber had shown her. Pauline thought for sure she'd get to see Florence. "Where's Florence?" Leon replied. "She's married." They visited briefly and made a possible date. If she could make it back to town that evening, they would go to the show and Leon would take her home. Of course, Polly managed to get back to town from her ranch home 10 miles northwest of Colgate with her mother and daddy, Orville and Nancy Long. Mary Pauline, Polly Long, was the teacher at the one-room rural graded elementary school, Rock Creek, in northern Cole County. This was the beginning of a romance between these two individuals. After Leon's discharge from the service, he and his brother Ernest and their friend Leon Beckwart took off in Leon's 1940 Ford Coupe for Wyoming. They started working at number 11 coal mine at Reliance, but when the miners went on strike for new contracts on April 1st, Leon Lanoy returned to Oklahoma. Polly's brother, Gene Long, was getting married to Helen Merrick on May the 4th, 1946. Leon was asked to be best man. Polly was to be maid of honor, shown with the bride and groom. By this time, Leon had pensive intentions and asked Pauline to marry him, and of course, she said yes. They returned to East Central University that summer, and at the close of the summer session, the wedding took place, with Leon Lanoy, age 24, and Mary Pauline Long, age 20, becoming united in marriage August 2nd, 1946, which also happened to be the 33rd wedding anniversary of Leon's parents, Charlie and Blanche Lanoy. The First Baptist Church in Colgate, Oklahoma, was the place for this union. Leon and Polly left on their honeymoon and headed for Wyoming. The last night of the trip was spent at the Hotel Vernon in Baggs, Wyoming. In the hotel room, which cost $2.50, was a washstand with a big ceramic pitcher and wash bowl, but they had to go down the hall to the only bathroom on that second floor. This picture shows the washstand that belonged to Leon's papa and mom when they married in 1913 and is similar to the one in the Hotel Vernon. The washstand is still placed in the Lanoy home south of Colgate, Oklahoma, this year of 2015. Leon and Pauline's first home was in Rock Springs, Wyoming. 6 weeks later, they moved to the coal mine camp of Winton. Pauline had signed a contract to teach 3rd and 4th grades. Leon got his old job back at number 11 coal mine in Reliance Coal Camp. That time was still in the clutches of World War II. Teachers had left teaching jobs to do office work, join the forces, or work in defense plants, thus creating a shortage of teachers. Time passed. April 1st appeared. Miners went out on strike for new contracts. Leon was housekeeper for Mrs. Lanoy to finish her term of school. At the close of school, Leon and Pauline were ready to leave for Oklahoma to attend the summer term at East Central University in Ada. Leon had drawn $50 a month on the GI Bill, and at this entrance, he learned his wife was worth $40 because his GI Bill payment increased to $90 a month. When that summer session was over, the Lanoys returned to their residence in Wyoming. She was attending the workshop prior to the opening of the school term. Ira Russell, superintendent, approached and said, "Mr. Lanoy, do you have any college credits?" Leon responded, "I have 2 summer terms and the college allowed me 6 semester hours credit for PE for my time in the armed service." Mr. Russell urged us to go into Rock Springs to the county superintendent's office to see Carrie Sproul. If he could be certified, Leon would have a teaching job. Due to the teacher shortage, Wyoming still issued emergency certificates. Leon was qualified. His first teaching job was in 1947-48 in the Little White House on the Hill, teaching 5th and 6th grades. His salary for the entire year was $2,222.22. He was paid $30 a month extra as a school bus driver. Each school year closed and the Lanoys left immediately for Oklahoma to attend the summer term at East Central and at times the August session. Leon earned his bachelor's degree in 1958 and his master's degree in 1963. His parents were very proud of their son for his educational achievements. Leon and Pauline attended classes at ECU from 7 o'clock until 12 o'clock noon, then hurried back to their residence on Route 4 of Colgate to do their ranching duties. They chased cows, vaccinated and castrated calves, fixed fences, Some were rail fences, and others were barbed wire, and did the hay baling and studied late in the evening. During his 37 years of classroom teaching and administration, he worked at the coal mine camps of Reliance and teaching principal at the coal mine camp of Stansbury. Leon resigned to go to the oil field camp of Bear Oil. This was located in the northeast corner of Sweetwater County, Wyoming. Leon Lanoy continued to improve his credentials. He was certified as a superintendent February 1st, 1967. Starting at Bear Oil, Leon was the administrator and teacher of the 6th, 7th, and 8th grades. Besides the improvement in academic areas, Leon proposed an extracurricular activity of basketball for the youngsters. The kids were very enthusiastic about it, even though it was all done outside of school time. Students' grades soared. The first team was small, as it had to begin with girls playing with boys, since there were not enough boys to make a team. They played boys' rules against junior high teams in the area, and those girls progressed well. Leon Lanoy kept himself licensed and drove the school bus on many occasions as volunteer work. All the coaching he did was a voluntary activity for the benefit of the students. He always felt the students came first. Other school personnel, parents, and others came second. 18 double elimination tournaments were arranged, and Lanoy sponsored those games at Bear Oil, Wyoming. Over the span of 4 years, Leon coached in building a championship team. The Bear Oil Wildcats, under the leadership of Coach Lanoy, finished the highly contested 1961-62 season with an 11-3 record. The Wildcats were a well-rounded team and a tough one to beat on any court. At the close of the school year of 1967, Mr. Lanoy left Bear Oil to assume the job as superintendent of School District Number 21 in Fremont County at Fort Washakie on the Wind River Indian Reservation in Wyoming. When Leon Lanoy arrived on the job at Fort Washakie, the summer of 1967, he had a good opportunity to check over the entire school plant. Leon immediately saw that the maintenance crew, mechanics, and bus handlers building that those fellows worked in needed some attention. Their working area was a dirt floor. Leon knew the men in that department could handle their working situations better, tools could be kept cleaner, and handled easier if that bus barn had a concrete floor. One big Indian, who proved to be a very special friend, Pete Davis, said Mr. Lanoy was the first superintendent he knew of who knew anything about school buses, tools, and grounds. Pete Davis had been the head of the maintenance department for a long time. He was at Fort Washakie when it had been an Indian boarding school. Leon soon managed to see that the big bus barn was poured with a concrete floor. The improvement in that area was an accomplishment, and a good feeling was expressed by all concerned. Mr. Lanoy checked that school bus fleet himself and saw that necessary adjustments were done to meet the state requirements according to code. It was true this superintendent was very much interested in the transportation and handling of those buses in getting the students to school safely. He managed to update the entire fleet of buses during his 5-year stay at Fort Washakie. He noted the school lunch program was in capable hands with good cooks and kitchen helpers. Their department, too, was updated with new equipment that the kitchen crew recommended. Those Indian ladies were a delightful band to work with, same as the Indian men of the maintenance and vehicle crew. It was a pleasure to know the students were fed a good lunch while there. Superintendent Lanoy viewed all aspects of student concerns within the school plant. Classrooms seemed another area where students could be helped. Leon Lanoy, serving as superintendent of the Fort Washakie School, visualized the advantage of added classrooms and remodeling of departments such as music, home economics, library, and a special education distinct sphere. That venture put Fort Washakie out front and was recognized and used as an example for state and regional plans in helping special students. In the second year Mr. Lanoy was superintendent at Fort Washakie, he sought to establish the position of a principal. He chose Oscar and Faye Cannon to come to Fort Washakie. It was early summer of 1969. Leon's papa's health was declining fast. He called Leon to offer his home, land with mineral acres, cattle, and belongings. If Leon wanted them, his papa said, "I want you to have them." There was no hesitation. "Yes, Papa, I'll pay you what you have set." Before it could be thought about, word was received his papa, Charlie Lanoy, had passed away. Leon made quick arrangements for summer work at the Fort Washakie School plant so it would continue to progress while he made a fast trip back to Oklahoma for his papa's funeral. The school years passed quickly, and Leon decided to return to Sweetwater County to be the administrator of the Desert School in Wamsutter, Wyoming. His resignation was presented to the board. Mr. Lewis Twitchell, chairman of the board, expressed, "Mr. Lanoy's service to Fort Washakie School has been exemplary. During the past 5 years, his leadership has been far-sighted, and it is with regret that the board must now act upon a letter of resignation from such a dedicated man." At that time, Wamsutter was a growing community. Plans were soon underway for construction to house primary grades in individual classrooms. Middle and upper grades were departmentalized with placement of teachers in their areas of specialization and interest. Both teachers and students were happy with that arrangement. As the year progressed, it appeared to have been a wise decision, as students' records of achievement proved positively. When time was approaching for retirement, the Desert School staff of Wamsutter hosted a retirement banquet at the Holiday Inn in Rock Springs. Lanoy's wife, Mary Pauline, and his mother, Blanche, who resided with them, were also honored at the head table. A second event included a special retirement dinner for Leon Lanoy. The entire Wamsutter community, knowing of Leon's plans for retirement at the close of the school year in the spring of 1984, had plans of their own. 21 individuals made quilt blocks and completed them by May the 22nd, 1984. Community folks had a carry-in dinner for Lanoy's honor in the school gym at that time. Each block of the quilt presented to Mr. Lanoy displayed a particular accomplishment he managed to achieve for the school and the community. This quilt continues to be a treasured gift to show visitors. It is an outstanding display showing quite a number of projects. Leon Lanoy was successful in getting accomplished during the 12 years he was the administrator of the Desert School in Wamsutter, Wyoming. Leon Lanoy continued his final days in the closing of the school records as though he would be returning. Mr. Lanoy left that office in good hands of Mr. Rich Horsley. There were times when Leon Lanoy was not so serious about things and did show a bit of wit and humor. At one occasion, the teachers put up a bulletin board with these pictures of added captions. "Office work is part of the principal's job. How many dishes can there be with a bologna sandwich? Who'd believe it? Mr. Lanoy, a rule is a rule. No pets allowed." At Snowy Range, high on the snow cliff, "If the roads are closed, we can always fly them home. I know I parked that bus around here somewhere." Wamsutter Godfather. Harold DePass gave Leon the calendar with this message: "I gave up hunting and fishing. It was the worst 15 minutes of my life." Leon's hobbies and activities were a limited few. He did hunting, fishing, and camping at seasonal times. Leon and Pauline Lanoy enjoyed membership with the Seminole Boat Club for 34 years. The so-called camping was done at lot number 70 for 32 years of fishing on Seminole Lake, where they entertained friends and relatives. Launching the boat was a regular routine, and folks usually caught their limits of Rocky Mountain rainbow trout. Cousins Jack and Irene Flahot, friend Leon Beckwart and his wife Hannah, brother-in-law Gene Long and Gene's wife Helen, Leon's brothers and their wives Ernest and Leona Lanoy, and Albert and Jewel Lanoy, Leon's sister Margaret Sandman and her husband Paul, and others spent time with Leon and Polly there. Seminole was a very special place for Mom Lanoy, Blanche, when Leon and Polly brought her to Wyoming to live with them in her declining years. She loved to get in that boat and catch those trout. When our limits were caught, Mom Lanoy would generally call out, "Just let me catch one more fish." It was our pleasure to see her exclamation when she'd get a strike, and we would urge her to reel it in. We could actually see the enthusiasm Mom Lanoy had in catching those fish. She would get so excited. Leisure moments for Leon were spent watching the old-time favorite Western movies on TV. Those old shoot-'em-ups held his attention for entertainment. The leisure times were not lengthy, as Leon Lanoy had been kept busy with projects around his residences in Wyoming and Oklahoma. In both places, he had continued to help neighbors, friends, and relatives whenever he saw the need. Leon was certainly not a rocking chair retiree. A special activity Leon teamed up with Vic Jones and Ralph Tiny Leonard was officiating at basketball games. They were official referees an extended period of time for junior high and high school games. Another enjoyable zeal Leon spent with Jack Smith, Tom Manitos, and others in Rock Springs, Wyoming, was card games of poker. He also enjoyed the sport with his brother Ernest, Uncle Belgium Flahot, nephews, even some great-nephews. Then, in Oklahoma, after retirement, times of card games played with cousins, Otis and Dealey Pearl Shipman. Years later, Polly's niece and husband, Jana and Kyle Shelley, Mary Carnreich, Gary and Linda Hatridge, and Mike and Mary Ruth Barnes joined with the card games. Those friendly games were limited, as the bunch just played penny ante poker with wild cards for evenings of fun and cheap entertainment. During retirement years of spending the winters in Oklahoma, times were arranged for domino games. Neighbor cousin Harold DePass would come to be Leon's partner, the Guys. Longtime friend and neighbor Velma Childs would be present for Polly's partner, the Gals. Harold's wife, Gwenda, would be present at times, serving as scorekeeper. Hunting was another choice of Leon's activities. His number one game he liked to hunt was quail. That was especially great in hunting with his papa, a real hunting buddy, Charlie Lanoy. The fall hunting season in Wyoming included the pronghorn antelope and sage grouse. Deer was the start of the big game hunt for many years. Vic Jones and Leon hunted together, and Vic would always tell us, "Leon wants to put horns on that rock or that sagebrush." There were times when Leon's brother-in-law, Gene Long, and Gene's son, Bob, came to Wyoming to hunt deer. It was after being a resident of Wyoming 47 years that Leon's name was drawn for a permit to allow him to hunt for elk. That year, Leon bagged his big game of an antelope, deer, and elk. It was such an achievement for Leon that Vic Jones had a jacket made for him with his name and the figures embroidered on the back, and presented it to Leon as a 47-year hunter. There were times pheasant hunting was in line for Vic Jones and Leon, as well as hunting ducks. Besides the hunting and fishing Leon enjoyed, he participated in bowling leagues with fellows from Bear Oil. These trophies Leon has to show for that sport. The surgery for a rotator cuff in the shoulder curbed Leon's action for bowling. Leon Lanoy and his father-in-law, Orville Long, and brother-in-law, Gene Long, loved working and being together. They were very close and dear friends. Leon Lanoy loved his Lord and Savior and loved his neighbors and his many wonderful friends. All his life he dearly loved his family and was always ready to share with his mother and papa as long as they lived. It was the year of 1963 that Leon was baptized by immersion with his papa and mom on August the 12th by Lee Newberry, pastor of the Lehigh Baptist Church, who arranged to use the baptistry at the church in Colgate. Reverend Newberry had accepted the confessions of faith from Charlie and Blanche Lanoy in the summer of 1963. Leon had disclosed his faith in Jesus Christ to Reverend John Clark Harrington in Wyoming and has retained his membership in the First Southern Baptist Church of Rawlins, Wyoming. Leon Lanoy possessed the most remarkable ability to say and do just the right word or deed to encourage and light up a life. He didn't even have to work at it. It was just right there within him. In learning from Leon, I'm wondering, couldn't we each make someone else's day a little happier or brighter simply by using a warm, friendly tone and manner? Just being honest in what we say. It's really easy to spread joy of appreciation and let others know we think they are exceptionally nice and pleasant and do care. Leon will be entombed in a mausoleum in the Lehigh Cemetery, Lot 19, Block 11. This memorial has been sponsored and established by Brown's Funeral Services in Colgate, Oklahoma. Eddie Brown, founder. Jeremy Burris, manager.